All right, so what is this thing, Sfiras HaOmer? What are we doing? Every night we come to Shul and we count the Omer. People are very into it. You have to count the Omer. You have to know what day it is. The Chazan makes the bracha. And you listen and you count. And what are you doing? You're counting something. And it's a very unique mitzvah because if you missed one day, you're out. You can't say a bracha anymore. There's actually opinion that you can't count anymore. The halacha is you still count without a bracha. But it seems like there's a lot of emphasis given to just counting the days of the Omer when, what's the meaning of that? What content does that have? And especially all of a sudden we became these great Kabbalists. We say we're going to fix Teferes Shebenetzach and Netzach Shebenetzach and Chesed. What are we really doing over here? What are we? Have you ever met Teferes Shebenetzach? Have you ever met Chesed Shebenetzach? So, yeah, it's Yosef's birthday, so Teferes Shebenetzach in person is here. Baruch Hashem. So, what exactly are we doing? And not only that, but it's a mitzvah that is unique another way, and that is that not only is it consistent, you have to do the entire block of 50 days, otherwise you're missing something in the mitzvah, but also it's the only mitzvah they don't say Shechianu. We're doing this mitzvah, comes once a year, and we don't say Shechianu. How come we say Shechianu for this mitzvah? Come Shefri, say Shechianu. Lulav, say Shechianu. And now we have a new mitzvah, we're not saying Shechianu. What's going on over here?
Remember, during Precedes, the first night of first night of the Omer, and second night of Precedes, they say under there, right?
It's the second night of Pesach, saying Shechianu for Pesach, not because of the Omer. And Eretz Yisrael is 1 day, so they don't say Shechianu the second. So it seems from all of this that the Torah is trying to lead us somewhere, trying to go somewhere. And the question is, where are we going? What are we trying to do? So Sefer HaChinuch tells us, the point of counting the Omer, what are we counting? What does this mean to count? He says that we're counting the days to prepare for giving of the Torah. We're excited. The Jews left Mitzrayim. They were counting the days when they finally get the Torah. It's about getting ready to get the Torah. They're excited every day. They're closer and closer to getting the Torah. But if that was the reason, then we should count downwards. Like if I asked this guy over here, how many days are they left to school till he goes to overnight camp, he probably would. How many hours are left till recess? He probably would be able to figure that out. But you wouldn't be counting how many hours did he learn already. That's not the point. He wants to know how many hours are left till he gets to go to recess. How many days are left till he gets to go to overnight camp. But he's not counting 14 hours. Okay, Baruch Hashem. So the question is, why are we counting the days that have passed from the Omer? We also brought the Karban Pesach. We don't not counting days since then. What does this mean? So there's a medrash. Medrash says like this: there was a king who hired this guy to be his personal minister, and he did a great job. And you won't be surprised to hear that his personal minister was accused of taking funds from the government and stealing, and so the king punishes him. We hear this kind of thing happening. And it happened to him too, so he was guilty. So the king punishes him and sends him to a boyer, sends him to a dungeon, to a pit. And one day the king visits the dungeon, and he speaks to him, and he's so impressed with him, and the king says, you know what? I am going to take you out of this dungeon. And not only that, I am going to give you my daughter as a kala. So the guy is like, this can't be true, it's impossible. It can't be. You know, I'm on the headlines as a guy who's the worst guy in town. It can't be you're taking me out of jail. It can't be you're offering your daughter. He doesn't believe it. But sure enough, the king takes him out of jail, and a few weeks later, he marries the king's daughter. Similarly, the Medrash says, so what does the guy do the first thing when he goes out of jail? He realizes that the king said it was true. His first promise came true. So he's counting the days till the day that the king is going to give him his daughter. Why is he counting the days? He's counting the days to prepare himself for that day. Similarly, when the Jewish people were in Egypt, Moses came and told us they were going to leave Egypt. Not only going to leave Egypt, we're going to get the Torah. So at first, the Jewish people says that they didn't believe Moshe Rabbeinu was saying something that could possibly be real. But when they saw that happened, they saw this was real. So they counted the days. Why were they counting the days? They're counting the days to prepare themselves to get the Torah. It wasn't just that they were excited about getting the Torah. They were counting the days since they left Egypt as a preparation. It was taking stock of time and going through a spiritual preparation to get the Torah. This preparation is the theme of the days we're in now, every year. Before Shavuos, before we get the Torah every year, we're supposed to also get ourselves ready spiritually to get the Torah. And how does that work? How do we get ready to get the Torah? So just like in marriage, husband and wife get married, it's not just, people think getting married when you're younger, before they get married, you get an apartment, you get a fridge, you get a toaster. That's marriage, right? But it's a lot more than that. It's not just getting the marriage. Huh? So, what has to happen exactly? The chassid and the kala, the husband and wife, are making a very mature decision to dedicate themselves to each other forever. And they have to think, well, do I really love this person? Am I really into this person? Do I really believe this is the right one? So the preparation of the chassid and kala before the wedding isn't just getting their apartment ready and their house ready. It's about themselves. They're preparing to become a chassid and kala, to become one, to get married. There's a statement from Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo, we would say, he was very experienced in marriage, because he had 1,000 wives. He was the wisest of all men. So you probably knew what he was doing, right?
It's like an oxymoron.
You probably knew what he was doing. So Shlomo HaMelech, what does he say about marriage? What's his opinion? So we're all familiar with the more popular statement, not so familiar with the less popular statement. We're all familiar with the popular statement of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, saying, you know what marriage is like? He says, Matzah Isha, Matzah Taiv. You found a woman, you found goodness. It sounds good, right? But there's another statement of Shlomo HaMelech which sounds the exact opposite. He says, Meitzah Aniyas Isha Marmi Mavis. I find the woman to be more bitter than death. Marriage? Are you kidding? It's better to jump from the Whitestone Bridge than to get married. Well, marriage, crazy? It's better to die. Marmi Mavis. So which one is it? Is it worse than death? Or is it Matzah Isha Matzah Taif? So some commentaries say that it depends. He married 1,000 wives. Maybe some were better, some were worse. Some commentaries say it depends how old Shlomo HaMelech was. When he was younger, he had one opinion, older, another opinion. But the deeper answer is like this. Look carefully at the words. You see the depth of the words, the way he phrases those words. What's the first statement? You find a woman, you find goodness. You find someone else. You think about someone else. Then you found goodness. What is the second statement? Moitzeni, I find myself. It's about him. In other words, in the second verse, he's not talking about an altruistic marriage where the couple is thinking about each other. It's about where there's a self-interest and they're trying to find themselves, and that's why they're getting married for a selfish purpose. And in that case, it's marmi mavas. Then it's more bitter than etc. But there's preparation to get the Torah is a similar concept. In Pirkei Avos, we're told derech eretz kodem laTorah, being polite, having manners, living a normal way, living in a kind way, comes before the Torah. Why does it come before the Torah? Because in order to get the Torah, before getting the Torah, you have to have something else first, before the Torah. We say every day in our prayers, we begin our davening with these words. Lo oilam yehi adam rei shamayim b'seiser. A person should always be God-fearing in secret, privately. When he's by himself, he should be God-fearing. The Chassidic masters say these words to mean something else. Lo oilam yehi adam. First of all, be a man. and then be God-fearing, then be Yireh Shamayim. But first of all, you have to be a man. First of all, be a mensch. There are some things the Torah tells you to do, but before the Torah tells you to do anything, you got to be a mensch before anything else. So the Torah is giving instruction to us, the people, but you got to be there first. So Sfiras HaOmer is about what comes before Torah. The Frierdiker Rebbe says the following story about this king who discovered this great dish. He wanted to have it. The great dish was Kishke. Kishke. So you see, he was at one of his Jewish friends, maybe Ashkenazi in Poland, in Germany, wherever he was. He wanted to have some Kishke. So where does he get some Kishke? So he sends his chef to some rebbitzin of some rabbi to figure out how to make this delicious Kishke. Okay? The cook comes, the whole staff, the whole kitchen staff, they're all watching to how do you make Kishke. Meanwhile, her husband went to mikveh before Shabbos, and they're all there in the kitchen watching the rebbitzin make Kishke. Okay? They come back to the king, Your Majesty. The cook says, we need to make a special party in honor of this new dish we're bringing to the palace. We invite everybody. So the king invites all of his friends and all of the princes. They're going to have some geschmacke Kishke. Good idea, no? So everyone comes, and they, of course, offer the king to have the first bite, to take the first taste of the Kishke. The king tastes the Kishke. He can't eat the Kishke. What happens? The king is so upset. He asked the chef, "What happened?" The chef said, "I don't know. I did everything that the rebbitzin did. I don't know what's wrong." He says, "King, go back there. Something's wrong." He goes back to the rebbitzin. What's wrong? So she asks him, "What'd you do?" So he tells her. And then she says, "She chaps something. Did you wash the kishke first?"
No.
He didn't wash it. The kishke's intestines of the animal. You wash it first? Why? I didn't know about that. So she said, I have to tell you, that's preliminary. That's before you do anything. You have to wash the kishke. You can't put all these great stuff inside it and make it good. You have to first wash it out. So similarly, there is the Torah. Before you get the Torah, you have to be a mensch first. So that's the days of Sfiras HaOmer. It's not about performance of Torah mitzvahs. It's about our relationship to Hashem, and that's what the different spheres are. The sphere of Chesed is about what do you love. Everything a person does is basically because of three things: either because of what you love something, that's why you're there. We're here to learn Torah. We love learning Torah, or because you're afraid of something. Maybe you're afraid what will happen if you don't do this, or the fair is you're thinking about a goal. You have a goal. Something has to get accomplished. It's not that you love something, not that you're afraid of something. You just have a goal. And there's the other spheres. Netzach, Chod, and Yesod. Netzach is being stubborn. Netzach supports kindness. You might have love. Maybe you have some obstacles. So Netzach is to be stubborn towards your goal. And Hod is the idea of submitting yourself. You may not understand. You might not feel, but you submit yourself. This is the way it has to be. And Yesod means that why do you do what you do? Because you have a bond. You have a real deep bond. So before you do anything, the Torah says, before you give the Torah mitzvahs, Hashem wants to have a relationship with us. And that's why we're counting all these spheres. It's not about the numbers. It's about this mitzvah itself has this energy in it. But it's not only the mitzvah itself. We find during these days that we're mourning. What are we mourning about? We don't take haircuts, we don't listen to music. Why not? We're mourning the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva. Why the students of Rabbi Akiva? What happened to them? So Gemara says they didn't show respect to each other, and therefore they all died between Pesach and Shavuos. How could it be they didn't show respect to each other? What was wrong with them? Why didn't they show respect to each other? You expect Rabbi Akiva students to show respect before anybody else.
No, they still dying to the bone.
There's an argument whether they started dying on Pesach until Lag BaOmer, according to the Sfarad tradition, or from Rosh Chodesh Iyar until 3 days before Shavuos, according to the Ashkenazic tradition. So our tradition in Chabad is we keep the stringencies of both opinions, and therefore we don't take haircuts, listen to music until right before Shavuos. But what they do?
What's the source of those two opinions? The Gemara?
So what is what was going on with these guys? Think about this. Who was their teacher? The teacher was Rabbi Akiva. What did Rabbi Akiva say? What was his main teaching? Main teaching was V'haftarecha kamecha. Today's Rashi. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. That's the whole Torah. So how could it be his students didn't show respect for each other? And it's just very simple. Because they cared about each other so much, they couldn't stand by to see one of their fellow students making mistakes. If they didn't care about each other, it's okay. So someone else makes a mistake, so what? You can live with it. But if it's your own child making a mistake, then you care about it. Then you might not say the right word because you care so much. But if it's somebody else, you don't care so much. So because they cared about each other so much, they had to express themselves when they saw someone else making a mistake according to their opinion. And because they cared, therefore they didn't always say the right word, they didn't always show respect. But why they passed away this time of year? So the Maharsha says they passed away this time of year because if they would have passed away in the winter time, people would have thought that they passed away because of flu or cold, which there was a sickness. People would call it, the winter brought it on. So they passed away specifically this time of year because of it's a more of a pleasant time and therefore less of a chance for it to be a natural thing. But there's a deeper reason. Chaim Vital says because since this is a time of Tikkun HaMidah, since it's a special time that God gives us a power to change ourselves, become a better people, so therefore it was expected of them to reach a higher level specifically at this time. Because it's in other words, there's different Averis which are more acceptable at different times. But this is a time Hashem expects them to focus on fixing their character as a preparation, giving the Torah, and on their level they weren't measuring up. So this is especially connected to this week's, actually also today's Chumash, the mitzvah of the mitzvah Shana Chamishis. Torah says when you plant a tree in Eretz Yisrael, the first 3 years you're not allowed to eat the fruits. The 4th year, bring the fruits to Yerushalayim, eat the fruits in Yerushalayim. And then if you do that, the 5th year God says, I'm going to give you a bracha in your field. You have so much fruit the 5th year. As a reward for abstaining from the fruit in a normal way for the first 4 years, the 5th year you're going to get a lot. So the Arizal says, the first 3 years correspond to the 3 last letters of God's name. The 4th year, the holy fruit that can only be eaten in Yerushalayim, though that corresponds to the Yud of God's name. And the 5th year's fruits, those fruits are connected to the dot, the point, on top of the Yud of God's name. Now, seemingly, the 5th year's fruits are regular fruits. They're regular fruits, you can do anything you want with them. How come those are the fruits that are considered the holiest fruits that are on the top of God's name? The top of the Yud of God's name. So, one explanation is like this. Hashem doesn't only want us to keep Torah mitzvahs. Hashem wants us to keep Torah mitzvahs in this world. Because Hashem wants us to make the world a home for Him. At what point does Hashem have a home in this world? Not only you're following the rules, when He has someone that is following the rules, when He has a Jew who is receptive to Hashem, who's relationship with Hashem, who cares about Hashem, that's following those mitzvahs. So when you're davening Ma'ariv, davening Mincha, you're saying the words, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But let's say you're not davening Ma'ariv, you're not davening Mincha. You are having something just because you are noticing bracha in your field. You're noticing that the fruits in this year grew fantastic. So you're excited. So you thank God because the fruits grow so well. So that wasn't part of the rules. You didn't have to do that. That's something deeper. That comes from a deeper part within yourself. It's not because you had to do it, it's because of who you are. Someone asks you, walking in the street, how are you? You say, Baruch Hashem, thank God. That thank God is a lot higher than the brachas you say in a way. Why? Because it's not because you have to do it, it's because of you. It's a famous story of alshamdiv. Conclude with this story. Alshamdiv used to travel around dressed like a simple person. And his goal was, he used to travel around, he used to want to encourage people to thank God. And he once came to this shul with a lot of darvish. You know what darvish is? I'll say it in Farsi, those who don't speak English. Darvish is a hermit. A hermit's shul. Shalom Aleichem Reb Shimon. Darvish. So it was a shul full of these hermits, and there was one guy who was studying Torah for 50 years non-stop. One guy is studying Torah for non-stop for 50 years. And all he's doing all day is studying. And he's eating bread and water late at night. That's all he did. He didn't do Torah and bread and water. Baal Shem Tov comes into the shul, and he sees this guy, and he says, hey, how are you? And the alshamdiv wasn't dressed like the alshamdiv, like a tzaddik. He was dressed like a regular person. This guy only spoke about Torah. He's like, please leave me alone. The alshamdiv says to him, hey, why don't you feed God? Why don't you give God his parnasa? Now you got a little confused. What are you talking about? Who is this guy? So the alshamdiv says, it says in the Torah, you, Holy One, you sit upon the praises of Israel. Va'ata Kodesh, you the Holy One, you sit upon Yoshev Tehilos Yisrael. You sit upon the praise of the Jewish people. You're supported by our praise. We, the Jewish people, are supported by you. But who supports you, Hashem? The Jewish people. When you sit down, you lower your stature. You lower yourself. In order to bring godliness, holiness, to be revealed in this world, to bring brachas upon yourself, alshamdiv knew that when a Jew thanks God for whatever it is, he brings brachas upon himself. You say thank God for whatever it is, you bring a bracha for that thing. You need a bracha for parnasa, you thank God for parnasa, it brings you a bracha for parnasa. Why is that? Because va'ata kadosh, what caused Hashem to sit, what caused the brachas to come down, godliness to be in a state of settling, so to speak, in this world, it's Tehilas Yisrael by our praising Hashem. So the Baal Shem Tov interrupted the guy's learning, that he should say thank God. Why did he interrupt his learning? Didn't the guy learn Torah? Didn't the guy do... There's many ways of, so to speak, giving parnasa to Hashem. He davened shachas and mincha mayim. He said brachas before Eid. He said brachas after Eid. What did Hashem want to accomplish? And if you wanted to already make him thank God for something, make him thank God for the Torah. He said, why didn't he ask him, how is the Torah that you're learning? Isn't it enjoyable? Why didn't he ask him something more meaningful to him? Why did he direct him to talk about something which is meaningless to him? How is your parnasa? How is your livelihood? Because Baal Shem Tov knew that Hashem's deepest desire is that we should go home from the lowest place. That we ourselves, as we are, we should be sensitive and receptive to Hashem. We should be sensitive and feel Hashem's presence. Not angels in Shemayim, angels in heaven, but us, the way we are, we should feel Hashem's presence. And therefore, Baal Shem Tov asked him, how is your bread? How is your life? How do you feel? How's your health? Because the point of Hashem's home in this world is whatever is lower is more of a home for Hashem. Whatever is more you, less holy, less official, less spiritual, is more a place for God. And therefore, what's considered the highest point of the 5 years cycle, not the first 3 years we can't eat the fruit, not the 4th year when it's holy fruit eaten in Jerusalem, when it's the 5th year, it's your fruit, you see you had a bracha in your field that year. Fantastic. So you say, Baruch Hashem, naturally, without any mitzvahs, that's the highest point. So the point is, in these days, as they're preparing for Shavuos, you have to think about not just about the mitzvahs, but who we are and how related to Hashem. Rabbi Zeh, before you go, I'll tell you one more story. Ready? My grandfather, Rabbi Mordechai Levin al-Vashalom, he used to do this thing called Encounter with Chabad in Eretz Yisrael. All the Russian immigrants came to Eretz Yisrael, and they used to do this. They used to do a program to welcome them and to help them learn more about Chabad and religious life. So they used to do it on Friday nights to have all these guys come in. They will learn. So one Friday night, it's interesting. My grandmother lit Shabbos candles, and she showed them all the women how to light Shabbos candles, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing." She told them you have to do it every week. She would cry so much that they were like, "Oh, we can't do that. This is too much. We can't cry like this every week." Anyway, so my Zayda said the following story to them. This guy once.
Why would you cry?
Because that's a special time to ask God for what's going on in your life. She cried that her grandson should be from. I guess it worked, at least partially. Anyways, so my Zayda said the following parable. He said this guy was very poor, and he happened to pass by this suit store, and he sees this very expensive suit. He wanted to get the suit, so he gathered up penny after penny, and after many years, he finally has enough money to buy this $1,000 suit. He's very excited. The guy measures him, and he tries on the suit. It's fantastic. And he goes home, and he's so excited. He has this brand new suit that he wanted, waiting for so many years. And he puts on the suit, and he can't believe it. It doesn't fit. It's too short over here, too short. Maybe standing like this, standing like that. And he goes back to the guy and says, "I can't believe you did this to me. I spent so much money in the suit, and look what you did. What's wrong? Doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Try it on." He starts to try it on in front of the guy, and the guy says to him, "Are you crazy? You can't try it on like this. Take off your old shmatas first, then you can try it on. You can't try on the new suit with old clothing on." Similarly, as we're getting ready to connect with Hashem in Mount Torah, Hashem gave us this mitzvah, and it's not a mitzvah you say a bracha on, because this mitzvah is something which is a preparation for the next mitzvah. This mitzvah is not the point. If this mitzvah was a point, then you do this mitzvah, you say a bracha on it. The whole point of Sfiras HaOmer is to prepare ourselves to be sensitive and connected to each other and to Hashem, and that's why there's no bracha on it, because it's a means to an end. It's not about the mitzvah part. It's not about the It's not about the it's a mitzvah which its whole theme is a preparation for the marriage with Hashem, and therefore it's not there's no bracha of shachayanu for this mitzvah, because it's not the climax in itself. It's something which prepares us for the next step. L'chaim, l'chaim. Have a year of atzlacha, bracha, and al inyanim.
During